Hello, this is Sahar. I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast.
I wonder if I can start by asking you a question that a reader of my online magazine, psmagazine.com, has sent in. She says, my nephew, age 29, has just been treated for his second cancer of the colon. Tumors were removed and a small part of the colon below and above his belly button. What diet would you recommend while he's on chemo?
Well, one of the most important things when you're on chemotherapy is you have got to have sufficient greens available to process the remains of the chemotherapy. You're not allowed to take anything that increases detoxification of the liver, but you definitely want to be taking things that protect the liver.
Right.
And there are many different types of things that will do that, such as milk thistle. Many people make the mistake of thinking milk thistle is a detoxifier. It's not.
Really?
It's really more for protecting the liver from damage. Eleuthero is another herb that's just for during radiation and chemotherapy as an antioxidant. But as far as diet goes, you have to start with greens, and we usually recommend juicing during this period of time, because if he's had this type of cancer, he can't have extremely fibrous food.
Right.
So he can't have a lot of raw vegetables or even cooked vegetables. He can't have nuts or seeds or things that are going to be very fibrous. So by juicing, you're taking all the fiber out, and then you're still getting all the nutrition. And I don't normally recommend juicing on a regular basis, but for this situation,
For this particular situation,
it's essential. And then over a little bit of time, he can start doing a lot of things that will really help to heal the lining of the gut, and then that'll make it much easier for him.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about breast cancer. We sort of started in the last. You have a theory on breast cancer and why women develop breast cancer, so to speak.
Well, I've treated many cancer patients, but especially a lot of breast cancer patients, and I'm seeing more and more of them, and younger, actually.
That's true.
Which is
Yes,
disturbing.
I noticed that, yes.
Yeah. And so what I've tried to do is find what are the commonalities among these women. And so one of the things that I really came to realize, and I found that by treating a lot of women with hormonal imbalances, that the human body, and particularly in women, is using additional pathways for clearing or eliminating toxic material from the body. So in addition to typical pathways like through the kidneys, through the colon, through breathing, the female body is also using menstrual blood, and I believe it's also using breast tissue.
Right.
It is segregating toxic material into the ducts of the breast tissue, making the assumption that because it's a duct, that will be an open pathway, and the body will clear that out at some point.
Right.
But let's say a woman never becomes pregnant or never breastfeeds, those ducts are never opened, and therefore the toxic material will crystallize and start to form a toxic deposition that the body will build tissue around. And in the holistic world, this is one of the leading or most contributing factors to tumor development, we feel.
That's interesting. So the body assumes that naturally these pathways are going to be open or
Exactly.
used, and then it will flush the
Right,
systems
because the
out.
body never assumes that you're not going to be using some aspect of your body. It makes the assumption you're using everything. It doesn't realize what you're thinking upstairs, which is, oh my God, I'm never going to be pregnant as long as I live.
So it doesn't know.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so you have all of this toxic material that doesn't seem to be removed. And you
Yes.
also have a huge amount of lymphatic tissue through the breast tissue, more so than in any other part of the woman's body. And therefore, that is another pathway the body uses for elimination. So it will really segregate in the breast tissue as well.
This is interesting because very often if you would see breast cancer, you would see lymph.
Almost in 90% of the cases, yes, that's true.
How does this relates to your work relates to conventional medicine? I mean, from what you're saying so far, I've also studied with the healing Tao system that the ancient Chinese believe also that women, for example, store their emotions in their breast or in their reproductive organs, and therefore they're likely to develop problems there.
Absolutely.
And for men, we spoke earlier in the last podcast about prostate, and also due to not detoxifying. But in general, how does your approach relate to or integrate with conventional medicine?
I think when I first became a naturopath, which was about almost 30 years ago now, I found that my relationship to conventional medicine was most people went the conventional medical route and couldn't find an answer that was acceptable. They were being told these are your only options. They would try those options and it would not be successful, whatever the condition was. And so they would then come to me afterwards. And they came to me sort of as a last resort. Now what I'm finding is people are going to the doctor, they're getting an opinion, and then they're not doing it. They're coming to me and saying, okay, this is what the doctor offered me. Now, can you explain to me what you think I should be doing? So people are coming to me now looking for a second opinion instead of rushing right into some sort of treatment. So they're getting my opinion and then making a decision about treatment. And the benefit of that is that I'm able to take more time to explain to them what the doctor actually said. They're bringing me the reports and they're like, the doctor has 5 minutes. I don't understand what this means. I don't understand what these blood tests mean. I don't understand why he's telling me this.
Right.
And so I'm spending a lot of time explaining to them what the doctor doesn't have time to explain to them, and then giving them my opinion of what they might be able to try naturally. So many people are coming to me and then using my suggestions and combining that with what the doctor has said. Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting, off mic, so to speak, earlier we were talking about the breast cancer panel, and you mentioned that 45%?
45 women out of 50.
Out of 50, 45 women out of 50.
Have gone into remission that we've been treating. And that's what led me to really realize that there were some changes that could be made in women's lives that would help to prevent cancer early on.
Particularly if we catch it early on.
That's it. And what I'm really hoping is not only treating women currently who have breast cancer, but being able to then speak to their daughters and speak to the other women in their family and help them to understand what they can do to prevent it
altogether.
Right. Because you know what it is? It's much easier to prevent something than to treat it.
So I think if one becomes more aware of how the body reacts through stress, emotions, etc., or even the right diet, then you could prevent. Going
through a whole evaluation and a process of healing with a naturopath is an educational experience where you will then know what your weaknesses are and what to do.
And then you can keep taking the right sort of herbal remedies,
eating the right types of foods. How much exercise do you need? How much does stress affect you in your life as opposed to the person standing next to you?
Karen, I have an unusual question for you. I hope you can answer it. I have a friend who's a performer, an opera singer, and as with all performers, she suffers from panic attacks every now and then. Can you do anything to help her?
Well, you know, it's interesting because my mother was chair of the classical voice department in New England Conservatory in Boston. And so performers are something that I've gotten a lot of.
Really?
And based on all the musicians and all the theater people that I've worked with, I've developed this tonic called Panic Button.
How amazing.
Yeah, and they absolutely love it. And it has a lot of adrenal support. It has a lot of calming herbs. And I have them start taking it the night before.
Fantastic.
And then the morning of, and then about an hour before they go out on stage. And they all say it's just been miraculous at keeping them calm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And just to clarify to our listeners, you can ship your products
Yeah,
worldwide.
we ship all over the world because we have so many people that have been to the clinic and I've seen in my different practices. And even when I'm lecturing in Puerto Rico, I get a lot of people that then, you know, have evaluations with me there, and then we need to ship to them.
And of course you speak fluent Spanish, don't you?
Yeah, I do, which I love doing.
Well, that's wonderful because I know that we kind of worked together for a while before I had actually met you. I mean, I had my consultation originally on the phone, and there was no problem receiving all these products. Finally, one question. One thing that life has taught you?
Ooh, one thing that life has taught me. I think probably one thing that life has taught me is that every single one of us is a lot more similar than we are dissimilar.
That's interesting.
And I've seen that actually in my practice. And women will walk in to see me and they'll sit down and I'll know instantly, this is a gallbladder woman. Definitely gallbladder. And she'll start talking and everything she says, it's like, yep, this is a gallbladder woman. And all the gallbladder women have very similar characteristics. It's very fascinating. And there's this whole question as to whether our physiology actually comes out through our personality and through the way we are, or whether the way we are and our personality is what controls our physiology. Is it a two-way street or is it a one-way street?
That's interesting. It's almost similar actually with any kind of divination system, or let me say just esoteric system, that there are archetypal problems or archetypal ways of behavior, but also our individual way of dealing with them is probably what makes a difference.
Little did Jung know.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you, Karen, and thank you
Thanks.
very much again.
Oh,
for
I
being
loved
with
it.
us.
Thank you.